Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're digging into something probably right at the top of your agenda, especially if you're leading IT or engineering teams. It's that big question, is AI really making our developers more productive? Because, despite all the hype, all the optimistic forecasts, there's this recent randomized controlled trial from METR with a pretty unexpected finding. Get this. Early 2025 AI tools actually slowed down experienced open source developers by 19%.
Yeah, 19%. And that's exactly why we wanted to do this deep dive. We need to get past the benchmarks, the shiny demos, and see what's actually happening out there in the wild. These insights are, frankly, crucial for your strategic planning, especially if you're dealing with the joys of managing SDLC in large, mature code bases.
That 19% slowdown, it really makes you stop and think. So how did METR actually pin that down? What was their method?
Well, it was pretty rigorous. This wasn't just like asking people how they felt. They took 16 experienced open source developers, think average 5 years experience, over 1,500 commits on their projects, real heavy hitters. And they had them tackle 246 actual tasks, bug fixes, features on these massive complex repositories. We're talking huge code bases. Average 23,000 stars on GitHub, over 1 million lines of code, 10 years old on average. And here's the key bit. Tasks were randomly assigned. Either you could use AI tools, mostly Cursor Pro, with Claude 3.5 or 3.7 Sonnet, or you couldn't. Very controlled.
Okay, and this is where it gets really interesting, especially from a leadership perspective, right? Investing in these tools. The developers themselves, before they started, predicted AI would speed them up by, 24%? But even after using the tools, after actually experiencing the slowdown, they still estimated they'd been about 20% faster with AI.
Exactly. And the external experts, even more optimistic, they predicted like a 38-39% time reduction. It's this huge gap between, let's call it aspiration and actual perspiration, or maybe aspiration versus irritation in this case. It really flags that human element, doesn't it? It's like when a team promises a Q3 delivery in January based purely on caffeine and optimism.
Right, followed by those status reports calling major delays minor learning opportunities.
Precisely. It highlights a real leadership challenge.
Yeah.
How do you manage that adoption curve when perception is running way ahead of the actual measurable reality? When do you step in?
So what was going on? Why the slowdown? The study mentioned the sort of over-optimism factor.
Yeah, that was a big piece. The developers basically kept reaching for the AI tool, even when it wasn't really helping. It's kind of like giving your top engineer a fancy new gadget, and they feel obligated to use it for everything, even hammering in a nail, while the actual project timeline just, quietly weeps in the corner.
Okay, so over-optimism was one thing. What else limited the AI in this specific scenario?
Well, a few key things came out. First, high developer familiarity. These weren't newbies. They knew their complex code bases inside and out. Years of experience, tacit knowledge. The AI just couldn't compete with that deep understanding. Second, low AI reliability. This is a big one. Developers only accepted less than 44% of the AI's suggestions. And they spend about 9% of their total task time just reviewing, debugging, and cleaning up the AI code.
9%. Just fixing the help. Imagine that hitting your pull request queues.
Right. Adds a whole new layer of fun to code reviews. And the third factor was implicit repository context. These big old code bases have so much undocumented history, weird workarounds, you know the type.
Oh yeah, the don't touch this file from 2017, nobody knows why it works, but it does kind of context.
Exactly that. The AI just couldn't grasp that nuanced, unwritten stuff. So its suggestions were often irrelevant or sometimes even actively unhelpful.
Okay, so given these results, we need to be careful not to oversimplify, right? This isn't saying AI for coding is useless.
Absolutely not. That's crucial. These findings are very specific. We're talking experienced developers working on mature, complex, open source projects. AI might still be a massive help for, say, junior developers getting up to speed, or for teams working on brand new greenfield projects without all that legacy baggage. And, AI is evolving fast. Future models, better ways of prompting them that could change the game entirely. This is just a snapshot of early 2025 tools.
Which really brings us to the core question for you, the IT or engineering leader listening in. Are your teams seeing real, measurable productivity gains? Or is it possible they're caught in this cycle of, optimistic adoption without solid proof?
Because that true ROI, it might be hiding behind the slick interfaces and those perhaps slightly too enthusiastic internal surveys.
Yeah.
It really underscores the need for proper field experiments. You need robust outcome measures, not just anecdotes.
So maybe the provocative thought for today is this. How much of your team's perceived AI-driven efficiency might actually be more of a shall we say, a perceived performance improvement plan. It's a good reminder that even with cutting edge tech, rigorous real world validation is still king.